Hello, this is Chef John from foodwishes.com with smoked trout Schmear. That's right, I've been wanting to feature this delicious product in a video for a very long time, and I was hoping to use it in something very different, very creative. But then I came to my senses and realized I really need to show you what I think is the ultimate smoked trout delivery system, the Schmear. And if you are wondering what the difference is between a Schmear and a spread, mostly the spelling, but personally I think Schmear looks way cooler. Plus, nobody can argue it's way more fun to say. Schmear. But anyway, no matter what you call this, the first step to make it is going to be the same. We need to make sure we have some room temperature cream cheese. So what we'll do is we'll toss our cream cheese in a bowl a few hours before we're going to make this, and leave it out at room temp until it's very soft and pliable. And sure, you can make this with cold cream cheese. It's just going to be a little harder, and who needs the extra work? So we're going to make sure we have some nice soft cream cheese to work with before we move on to the star of the show, the smoked trout. Check it out. So I have 2 boneless, skinless fillets here. Those are going to be about 2 to 3 ounces each. And the color can vary from what you see here to a bright orange red that looks almost exactly like smoked salmon. So there are many different varieties of trout, but as long as it's smoked, it will work here. And what we're going to want to do before we proceed is to break this up into little pieces. And we're doing this for a couple of reasons. It's going to mix into our cream cheese a lot easier. But more importantly, even though this is sold as boneless, you may, and probably will, still find a couple small bones in there. And by the way, let me show you a better system than just randomly breaking this stuff up. What we really want to do is push everything to one side so we can systematically crumble everything into a pile, which is going to make it a lot easier to see what's going on and less chance we're going to miss one of those little bones. And in case you're keeping score at home, I found exactly 2. And then once our smoked trout fillets have been broken up, let's go ahead and dump that into our bowl of cream cheese and proceed with the rest of the ingredients. The first of which would be a spoon of capers. And quite often for recipes like this, they call for the capers to be chopped, but I don't like that. I like to put them in whole because as we mix this with our fork, those will get broken up a little bit, which is going to release all those beautiful briny flavors, but it's not going to be quite as intense as if we mince these up. So we're going to toss in some whole capers, followed by a spoon of hot prepared horseradish, which of course you can get at the store, or I just saw an amazing video for how to make that yourself, which of course we're going to provide a link for. And then we're also going to season this up with a little bit of freshly ground black pepper, as well as a little bit of salt, but not too much, because usually smoked fish is kind of salty. And of course we'll check and adjust for that later. And then let's also give this a little shake of cayenne, because it's good and good for you. And then to balance the creaminess of the cheese and the richness of that smoked trout, we're going to want a little bit of acidity, which in this case will be provided by freshly squeezed lemon juice. And then we're going to finish this off with some freshly chopped herbs. So we'll do a little bit of chive, which is going to give us a little touch of that onion flavor without being overpowering. A lot of people like to use a little bit of minced raw onion in this, but for me that's just a little too harsh. And then we'll finish this off with some chopped dill, also known as the ultimate smoked fish herb. So for whatever reason, I'm sure it's all very scientific, fresh dill just pairs perfectly with any kind of smoked fish. I'm sure someone will explain it to me in the comment section. And once all that's in there, we can go ahead and forkulate this until it reaches what we would personally consider the perfect texture. So I'm going to mix this up with the fork, kind of using the back of it to smash stuff against the bottom of the bowl. And as I mentioned earlier, that's going to kind of break up those capers, as well as hopefully mix everything together. And if you want, you could just mix it a little bit and leave it coarse like this, or as they call it in the business, rustic. Or, as I prefer, you can continue mixing until you have something much smoother. And by the way, I joked earlier about the difference between a schmear and a spread, and there really isn't any. But what is very different is a mousse. All right, some people like to put this kind of thing in a mixer and whip a lot of air into it, which I don't like at all. It's too light. In fact, some of your delis will whip in as much as 50% air into this, which means basically you're paying like $18 a pound for air, which is not a good deal. But anyway, we'll continue mixing until we think it's perfect, at which point you're probably going to want to taste it, which is fine. By all means, give it a taste. But I don't think we want to make our final decisions on seasoning just yet, because what I like to do is transfer this into the fridge for a couple hours, to let it chill thoroughly, and to give it time for those flavors to fully mingle and mature. So I transferred mine into a ramekin, and we'll wrap that in plastic. And if you're one of these people that have emailed me asking why I always press the plastic down onto the product, well, if you think about it, the reason we wrap something is to keep the air away from it. And by pressing that plastic down, we've actually eliminated any air. So that's the official reason. But anyway, I'm going to wrap that up and pop it in the fridge. I'm going to put it right next to that head of lettuce that still has the root attached, which you think would be cheaper since I have to do all the work, but no, it's more expensive. And like I said, we're going to let that sit in the fridge for a couple hours, let those flavors develop, After which we'll pull it out and give it the official taste for seasoning. And of course, deciding what you need to add, if anything, is going to be up to you. You are the premier of your smoked trout schmear, so you'll have to determine if it needs some more salt or some more lemon or some more heat or whatever. But I am happy to report mine was perfect, so I moved on to my favorite step, the presenting and eating of the schmear. So I'm going to go ahead and serve that up alongside some pumpernickel and some radishes. And by the way, I couldn't afford the fancy French breakfast radishes that have that beautiful white band going around them. So instead, I just carved around some regular cheap red radishes, which will fool nobody. But regardless, let's go in for our official taste. And if you haven't had it before, this stuff is just incredible. And like most normal people, I love smoked salmon spread or schmear. But I gotta tell you, I think smoked trout is superior. It just has such a gorgeous, slightly sweet, beautifully rich flavor, which is why, if you noticed, we were a little bit restrained in what we added to this. Okay, we really don't want to overpower or cover up that amazing flavor. Just an incredibly delicious substance to spread on pretty much anything. In fact, in hindsight, my only regret here is not showing you this finished on top of a toasted bagel, which is just beyond perfection. And no, when it comes to food, that is not impossible. So I really do hope you give this a try soon. Head over to foodwishes.com for all the ingredient amounts and more info as usual. And as always, enjoy.